What's up? Coach Dan Blewett here. In today's video, we're going to talk about some baseball pitching velocity myths, because baseball, there's more radar guns than ever, right? There's Stalkers are cheaper. That's a radar gun brand. Jugs radar guns have been around for forever. Pocket radar is pretty reliable, and that's also brand new to the scene in the last like 5-10 years, right? So pitching velocity is on everyone's mind. It's an important standard you have to meet to play varsity baseball, college baseball, pro baseball, and obviously to have success at all levels of baseball. So in today's video, we're going to cover a bunch of different velocity myths and talk about what you should expect as a pitcher, as a coach, as a parent, as we continue to measure this important metric in baseball. All right, if you're new here, I'm Coach Dan Blewett. I'm a former pro pitcher. I'm the author of 2 baseball books, host of a bunch of podcasts, and obviously in my YouTube channel, there's mindset stuff, there's videos on baseball workouts, pitching drills, pitching mechanics, lots and lots of content. So you can find my books, my online courses, more videos in the description below, and obviously be sure to subscribe to the channel as well, because I put out new content all the time. In today's video, you'll find timestamps. So if you want to jump to a different point in the video, you can easily do that with the timestamps below. So let's get started. Our first pitching velocity myth that I want to get rid of is that 100 is the new 90. So there's more players that throw 100 than ever, right? We see them in the major leagues. You see them even in high school sometimes. But 90 miles per hour has been this like gate, right? If you threw 90 back when I was in college, like you're probably going to get drafted. You're one of the harder throwing players in the game. And that was like the barrier to entry. Today, 90 is not as hard as it used to be, and really more like 92 to 94, averaging 93 is more like the velocity range that gets you drafted today. And there's still players that throw 90 to 92, 89 to 93 who get drafted. So don't be mistaken, 100 is not the new 90, even though it's an exciting number that more players can reach in today's game. Myth number 2, that you have to touch your new velocity max every time out. So look, pitching velocity is a range. It's not a single number. So I've met lots of players who say they've hit 90, whether that's true or not, and they pitch like 85 to 87. And that's actually pretty normal. Like my max was 94, and I would typically pitch at 92 and have a bunch of 93s and a handful of 94s. And I'd sometimes go below 91, 92, or 91, 90, etc. Every pitcher has a range. So I'm overlaying right now, there's a photo of Max Scherzer's in-game velocity chart. So you'll see the dot is like his average, and then the vertical blue line is a sliding scale of his total range. So you'll see he's been as high as 98 and as low as like 92. Here's Aroldis Chapman's, and he's as high as like 105, which is insane, but he's also as low as like 96 sometimes. So just remember that just because you touch the new max, which is great, so maybe it's 80 or 70 for the first time, don't expect yourself to hit that every single time. Your new max is still going to be tough to reach, and when you get a new max, just remember that your new average has also come up. So if you have a new max that's, you were throwing 78 and now you hit 80, you should be happy that now you're going to be able to throw way more 78s. That's what your body's really more capable of, and a couple of the new 80s or 82s or whatever it is. So just remember that velocity is a range, and you can't expect too much of yourself every time out. The next velocity myth in pitching is that your bullpen speed should match your game speed. This is not really true. Now, more players than ever today train with a really high intensity level. So they're doing running guns and pull downs, and they're on the radar gun constantly. So they're really amped up to try to throw as hard as they can to see those numbers increase. And so more players are capable of throwing their full game speed actually in practice, which I find still really difficult. And I'm surprised so many players can actually do that. But for me, I was a guy who would throw 86 to 89 in bullpens, and then I'd throw 90 to 94 in games. I needed the adrenaline boost to really get to my full velocity, and a lot of players are still like that. So my take-home message here is, if you can throw your full max speed in practice with no fans, no bright lights, no hitter, I mean, hats off to you. That's great. But if you can't, don't worry about it so much. I think it's much more normal for a player to throw 2, 3, 4, 5 miles per hour slower in practice, because they don't have adrenaline. They don't have the game stakes, right? And then they get a bump because of adrenaline as they get older and as they go in the game. Now, I will say that more older players seem to have this adrenaline bump than younger players. Younger players, if you throw 67 in practice, you're probably throwing 67 in a game as well. Whereas it seems like the older you get, and that's probably because of hormonal changes, the gap seems to widen, where if you can throw 87 indoors, you might throw 90 outside in a game situation. So it always depends, but just remember, don't be too obsessed with your bullpen speed, because that pitching velocity number is usually going to take a good bump up when you go into the game, and then you've got pitching velocity raising up because of your adrenaline, and again, the whole game atmosphere that's so important. Next one, that your crow hop speed or your run and gun or your pull down throwing velocity matters. So this is one of those things where, again, so if you're gonna email a college coach and say, hey, here's my pitching velocity, here's a video. If you want to include a video of you doing a run and gun or doing a pull down, like you're running and crow hopping as hard as you can, or even throwing a different weighted ball that's not a 5-ounce ball, I don't think there's any harm in doing that, but I don't think anyone really even cares that much either. And here's the reason why. You're always going to be graded, like they're going to sign you based on what they think this guy can do in a baseball game. Now, if you can throw extraordinarily hard from a crow hop and your velocity's not quite there yet, sharing that video might say, hey, this kid might have more in the tank, where we think he's got a good arm and he's just not there yet. And the fact that you can throw 105 from a crow hop or whatever might be some indication that we can squeeze some more velocity out of him in our program. So I don't think there's any harm in including that, but you just need to remember that you can't run around. I mean, you can if you want to, but you shouldn't run around saying, oh, I throw 95 when that's from a sprint, from the outfield, because that's silly. If you throw 85 on the mound, you should tell people you can throw 85. If you throw 95 from a mound, then you throw 95. But if you throw 95 from a run and crow hop, like if you're a pitcher, like no one cares about that. That's not the new standard. It's just a different type of throwing, and that's fine. But again, you're still going to be graded and judged on your in-game velocity. That is the one that matters. All right, my next myth is that bigger muscles and stronger in the weight room is always going to lead to more velocity. So pitching velocity is funny, right? You've seen tons of guys on the mound in an MLB game who are bean poles, who are scrawny and lanky, who probably are not very weight room strong, who throw absolute fuzz, right? And that's because their body generates force really well. Everything is working together really well, because pitching a baseball is a system. And so your body has to work together. That being said, in most scenarios, especially for amateur players, for young players, if you took a version of yourself today and then you took a version B in an alternate universe and added 20 pounds to him and he was way stronger than you, that guy would throw harder than the current version in almost all cases. But when you get older, and players are already naturally gifted and they've already expressed a lot of their genes and they've already done a lot of training and they figure out, hey, I'm pretty good as just a kind of skinnier guy. No one's going to try to pack a lot of weight onto Chris Sale. No one's going to try to pack a lot of weight onto some of these big leaguers who are skinny but throw super well. It's not clear that they would be better by adding 30 pounds of muscle. It's not clear that they would. We also know that powerlifters aren't great throwers and bodybuilders aren't great throwers. So it's not like having muscle automatically makes you better at that action. What you want to do is try to figure out who you are and figure out, do I get better from adding a little more muscle, adding more strength in the gym? And you have to kind of tinker that and figure out what's the set point for your body. For me, I'm naturally a little more muscular. My chest gets big quick, my arms get big quick, and my back gets pretty thick quick from even just a couple months in the weight room if I haven't been in the gym as regular. So for me, I figured out that I threw my best about a month or two into the season when I started to lean out a little bit. I would carry a lot of muscle into spring training, and then I would start to lose a little bit as the season goes on. I can't lift quite as much, and the schedule's really rigorous. As I started to thin out a little bit in my chest and thin out a little bit in my arms and back, that's when my velocity seemed to peak up just a little bit to about where my set point was. So everyone needs to figure out where that is and where they throw their best. So it's not clear that, again, you might throw harder at 220 pounds than you do at 200, but you might not throw any harder at all at 230 pounds. You can't keep adding. You're going to get diminishing returns at some point. And that goes for strength. So deadlifting 600 pounds isn't necessarily better than 500 pounds, and being 250 isn't better than being 240. So you just have to figure out what your set point is. Velocity will help strength training and adding muscle will help almost all amateurs throw harder than they do today, but there will be diminishing returns, and you'll have to figure out what's best for you, your body, and what gets the most pitching velocity sort of squeezed out of you. And my last pitching velocity myth here today is that long toss adds velocity. And I want your comments below. So once you get through this part, leave a comment for me and we can discuss it, but pitching velocity is finicky, and long toss is really just a type of throwing. So when you think of things that make you stronger or jump higher or run faster, they're typically adding a training stimulus. So if you run, a 6.4 60 and you're actually really, well, that's way too fast. Say you run a 7 flat 60 and suddenly you get way stronger hamstrings and you're in the gym, improving your squat, improving your deadlift, and doing plyometrics. Those are all stimuli that will have a very positive effect on how fast you can run. But just running more 60s, it probably won't have that much of an effect of getting your 60 time down. But doing this, again, stimulating your body to grow and get stronger in the constituent parts that help you run will help. It's the same kind of thing with pitching. So when you're long tossing, it's not clear how that's actually improving your ability to throw a baseball hard, except for some of the mechanical benefits that are there. I do think long toss is beneficial in that it helps you learn how to go uphill with your shoulders, use your front side really well. There's a lot of good benefits mechanically that I think long toss does help. So it definitely could improve velocity in that sense, that it helps improve your mechanics. But the simple fact of throwing a ball really far, does that make you throw harder? I don't think that it does. The other thing that I want to mention is, and this is the main reason, is because there isn't really this stimuli that's different, that's going to stimulate your muscles to grow and get stronger. And I'm not advocating for weighted ball training, but weighted ball training is one of those stimuli. You usually throw a 5-ounce ball, that's normal. So now you throw a heavier ball or a lighter ball in a certain dosage, and it's stimulating your muscles to grow and adapt to it in the same way that your muscles grow and adapt during weight training. If you lifted the same weight every day in strength training, you wouldn't get that much stronger after a short period of time. Kind of the same thing with the regular ball. So again, I'm not advocating for jumping out and doing overweight or underweight ball training, but I'm just saying that's a better probably training stimulus than just chucking a ball really far. That being said, with long toss, it's also not right for a lot of pitchers. If you're a lower arm slot guy, like you throw out here, or you're a submariner or side armor, it's not going to do anything for you. So, long toss is not one of those things that has to be in your program. I loved long tossing as a young player, even as a medium age player. As an older player, when I got injured and I had Tommy John for the second time, my body did not tolerate long toss very well. And so as someone who did it his whole life as part of his sort of like training routine, and then I couldn't do it at all, you'd think that I would suffer some way, right? Like you're losing this major part of your training. I was fine. I only threw probably a max of like 200 feet. I threw on a line or downhill most of the time, and I was completely fine. So one of the takeaways here is that even though long toss can be a beneficial tool for some players, it can also be unnecessary. It wasn't necessary for me to be the absolute best version of myself. After my second Tommy John surgery, I had as much velocity as I ever had, and I was the better statistical pitcher in a better league than I was ever in. So I really didn't miss long toss, even though I always liked doing it. It didn't seem like it was an essential part of training, even though some people will often advocate for it, that you have to long toss, you have to long toss. You don't have to long toss. You have to throw. You don't necessarily have to long toss. But again, leave your comments below, because I think long toss is becoming more controversial, and I'm interested to hear what you think about it. So hopefully this video helped. There's a lot of misconceptions about pitching velocity. We can measure it more than ever. Obviously in baseball, there's all these different standards that you have to meet if you want to keep rising to the next level, and throwing hard is a big part of that. So thanks again for watching. I'm Coach Dan Blewett. Be sure to check out the description below for info on my books, my online courses, more helpful videos, and definitely subscribe to this channel, especially if you made it 15 minutes into this video. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.